Wherever you go, whatever you do, you're being targeted with advertising. Marketers are also bombarding our kids with TV commercials, digital ads, product placements, brand logos, and even kid influencers on social media.
And this is perfect because it's a lip oil mixed with a lip plumper. It's almost like skincare on your lips. It feels so nice, and it gives that amazing glossy finish that you're always reaching for.
That's because American children have enormous spending power. Most have cash or access to their parents' credit cards, and plenty of influence over what the family buys through their pester power.
If your parents won't let you have any real puppies, then just collect little live pets like these. Check the link in the description box below.
Marketing to minors is challenging. Advertising can easily exploit a child's limited ability to distinguish between entertainment and selling. AI and digital animation make it easier than ever for advertisers to cross that line. And the growth of online marketing to children raises serious concerns about privacy and data collection. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
In this episode, what's being done to protect our kids from the pervasive and persuasive marketing they're exposed to every day? What are the rules regarding marketing to minors, and is anyone enforcing them? And most importantly, how parents should talk to their kids about advertising. We have two great guests to discuss all of this. Bonnie Patton is Executive Director and co-founder of truthinadvertising.org, tina.org, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting you and your kids from false advertising and deceptive marketing. Hi, Bonnie. Good to talk to you again.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Donna Frazier, Senior Vice President at BBB National Programs, an independent nonprofit organization that oversees more than a dozen national industry self-regulatory programs, including the Children's Advertising Review Unit, or KRU. Hi, Donna.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So let's start by looking at the landscape. Bonnie, tell us the various ways that companies market to minors and some of your concerns about what's going on.
Wow, that's that's a big question to start. You know, children are on social media platforms and on the internet all day, every day, and marketing dollars are following them. And not only are we seeing companies that are complying with the law and caring for the kids, but unfortunately, we're also seeing a lot of bad actors and deceptive marketing that has followed these kids to the internet and social media platforms.
And they're trying to make sales in some cases by using deception?
Not trying, they're absolutely doing it in a number of ways. Brands are providing kid influencers with their products that are inappropriate for children, such as energy drinks, alcohol mixers, anti-aging products, weight loss products, supplements, you name it. And then, you know, there are a lot of just ads that the kids don't understand are ads, and they're not appropriately disclosed for these minors.
So, Donna, we're going to dive into the specifics of what KRU actually does, the Children's Advertising Review Unit, in just a bit. But based on the complaints you're getting, what are the biggest problems you're seeing with marketing to kids right now?
The inability for brands to effectively advise to both parents and children exactly what they're seeing, right? I mean, the guidance is labeling an ad. I would argue that possibly a child under 13 doesn't understand what even hashtag ad means. There is a problem with regards to the types of disclosures that need to be made and how they're being made and what children actually understand, which I think is an ongoing debate, will be a forever debate about exactly what children understand and at what age they understand things. But what we are seeing, again, I agree with Bonnie, is the use of influencers. And a lot of brands will say to us, you know, we have no control over the influencers. Well, some influencers are hired by the brands, and then there are independent influencers who are touting certain brands so that they can get income and revenue and things like that. But some of these influencers are children. Some of them are teenagers, but have a very young audience that follows them. Influencers are exactly what they say they are. Influencers. And brands are fully aware of the power of influencers. And I think the digital space, not necessarily the mobile apps and all that sort of thing, but the digital space, I think, is where we're seeing great vulnerability for children.
We're going to talk a lot more about these influencers later in the podcast, but right now I want to get back to that concept about advertising to kids. I mean, there have always been concerns about this. I remember TV commercials when I was a child during the Jurassic period where the toy did something it couldn't do, and there was a little tiny disclaimer flashed at the bottom of the screen for a few seconds that I couldn't read, saying something like, "This toy airplane really doesn't fly by itself." However, with computer-generated images and now AI, the tools to deceive or mislead are significantly more powerful and accessible. Bonnie, what worries you about this the most? Are you seeing this going on?
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, this isn't just simply affecting, families or kids' pocketbooks. The deceptive ads and manipulative ads we're seeing can influence kids' behavior. It can encourage them to engage in risky or unhealthy, or even at times dangerous behavior as a result of what they're seeing.
Don, am I correct? You've been talking to the advertising industry about the need for guidelines, the need for some guardrails when they're using stuff like AI and computer-generated images?
Correct. KRU has been hosting since last year an AI working group with a lot of the leading brands talking about the challenges that they are having in the AI space. What we're discovering and talking to these larger brands is that they're actually reluctant to really embrace and engage in the AI space. Some are moving ahead. A lot of them are not. They're being very careful. They're being very cautious, especially in the children's space. I think some companies are being very cautious. Some have a higher risk tolerance than others, but a lot of these brands are trying to be as thoughtful as possible when it comes to AI because it is moving so fast. When we started the conversations in our working group, we were just talking about just generative AI. Now we have agentic AI. We have all these different types of AI. And this is just, within 6 to 9 months that things are evolving so quickly. So we are working on creating some guidance, some guardrails. We did this for the metaverse. We are working on doing this for AI, both for industry as well as parents. Parents need as much guidance as industry does.
There's a lot of ways that an advertiser can get to a kid. You can do something simple like have product placement or have characters in the storyline, make a commercial. But there's a lot of ways to do this kind of thing if you really want to get the message out that's not really an advertisement.
Exactly. I mean, there are advert games. There are virtual worlds, right? Roblox and Minecraft, Fortnite, those are all virtual worlds. Advert games have become very popular, using licensed characters and mascots to deliver a message is something that we're seeing. You have interactive storytelling and experiences that are story-based apps using AR filters, choose your own type of adventure, sweepstakes and contests. So there's so many different ways to reach a child with these marketing messages.
Bonnie, Tina.org has created a series of in-depth reports called Monetizing Kids. It looks at the growth of social media influencers we were talking about a minute ago, kids marketing in some cases to other kids. One case study you conducted focused on Piper Raquel, a 17-year-old kidfluencer, that's a name, kidfluencer, who has more than 35 million followers on social media. 35 million. She mostly sells nutritional supplements and weight loss products, and I want to give a quick listen.
I always get complimented on my hair. And I do have to say, I'm so flattered. Literally, without my hair, I probably wouldn't get many compliments. But there is always room for improvement. I've been having some hair problems, so I kind of want to try something new, and I want to bring you guys along with me. I saw these Sugar Bear Pro vitamin gummies, and I was like, I need to get these right now. So I got them because I have to keep this hair looking luscious.
Bonnie, what is going on here?
It's a true disaster. This is brands, I think, exploiting minors to get to other kids and get their products out there. But the problem is that a lot of these products are not meant for children. There are supplements where if you look at the bottle, it says, keep out of the reach of kids. And here, this dietary supplement has hired this kid influencer to basically promote their product to a bunch of other children.
To me, that's just wrong.
It's more than wrong. It can absolutely be dangerous and harm kids.
I totally agree. I think that, I just said to my team earlier this morning, I was in a beauty makeup shops where I always thought that these places were intended for adults. I could not walk down an aisle without tripping over a child. The beauty industry in particular has become fraught with influencers, kid influencers who are really talking a lot about beauty products that are nowhere intended for the use of children. I don't want a child to be using retinol products. They're not safe for children. They're barely safe for adults. There are a lot of products out there that kids are using. There aren't proper disclosures, whether or not the brand, this is what the brand intended. We're beyond intent at this point, right? I think brands have to really understand that your marketing team may never have intended this to be their audience, but now it is. And what are you going to do about it?
That's a really good point. You know, when it comes to advertising targeted at children, there are federal rules and industry guidelines, and we're going to discuss those next. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
At checkbook.org, we have the answers to your consumer questions 24/7. That's checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that can help you with select local service providers, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook to be completely independent and objective. Our advice is always free. Ratings of local services are available with a subscription. If you live in one of these 7 metro areas and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. Get your free 30-day subscription by going to checkbook.org/consumerpedia.
This is not an unregulated marketplace. There are laws and rules in place. A voluntary system, the Children's Advertising Review Unit, which was created in 1974. KRU tries to promote responsible advertising to children and work with companies that cross the line from creative to deceptive. Donna, could you explain how KRU works?
KRU, as you said, was founded in 1974 by industry, by the stakeholders who realized that, okay, if they don't do something, Congress will. So industry came together and developed guidelines that over the years since 1974, we have continued to update based on technology, based on trends. The last update to the guidelines was in 2022. So we included in-app purchases. We included more about deceptive practices and obligations that brands have, in-app games, advertisement, things like that. We have that arm, which is our advertising arm, and we have our KRU guidelines, and we monitor the space, the children's space, to determine whether or not companies are in compliance. And when they're not in compliance, we send an inquiry letter to them. We may ask for a product, physical product, to be sent to us so that we can look at it. 99% of companies, when we send an inquiry letter, either didn't know that they were not in compliance with the rules because they weren't aware of the rules. They weren't aware of KRU, and they want to do the right thing. I think companies, like people, when they find out what the right thing is to do, they'll do it. The very few instances where companies don't agree with our findings or don't want to comply, KRU has the ability, and we have done this, to forward our case decisions to a state AG and or the Federal Trade Commission. The last referral that we made to the Federal Trade Commission was in 2018, which was against Musical.ly, which is now known as TikTok. And the FTC, a year later, agreed with our findings, found additional evidence that deemed them to be not in compliance with COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and fined them, I believe it was $5 million in 2019. The fact that we have COPPA here, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, that was enacted in 2000, and we, again, help companies who want to adhere to the law and the rules and manage their online experiences for children and engage with them in the right way. In addition, companies who believe that they're not engaging with children, but want to make sure that they're not engaging with children the right way. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. So that is another arm. And then our third arm is our pre-screen service, which we provide to companies. They can send us an ad at any stage of the advertisement, whether it's a script, whether it's a final beta roll or a B-roll. We can review it and ensure that they are in compliance with our advertising and privacy guidelines.
Donna, give me one or two absolute no-nos, absolute red lines you can't cross.
One is not making the proper disclosure that this is an actual ad. You must disclose that this is an advertisement. And there are different ways to do that when it's directed to a child, right? So if you have, especially if there's a character can be in an ad, but you need to be specific and say, this is a toy that this character is playing with. I think having children understand what an actual ad is, there's a whole education piece around this, right? With regards to parents and schools and how children are informed about what an ad is.
Yep.
They have to be able to understand the language. The language has to be child appropriate. And that is probably one of the biggest red flags, is talking to children like they're not children. This is one of the times where you want to talk to a child like they're a child when it comes to advertising.
Good point. So years ago, Congress recognized the significant potential for harm the internet could pose. And in 1988, lawmakers passed the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, which required the Federal Trade Commission to issue and enforce regulations concerning children's online policy. The primary goal is to place parents in control over what the information is collected, and it was designed to protect kids under the age of 13 while accounting for the dynamic nature of the internet. Bonnie, is this working?
Wow. I think we can say yes and no. I mean, recently we've seen the FTC go after Disney and third-party software apps for violating COPPA. So we know that companies as established as Disney are not following the rules of the road and should know better. At the same time, there are checks and balances like the help of KRU or the FTC taking these actions that show to some extent it is working. But I think the problem is the internet is just such a massive domain, and there's nowhere near the resources to police it in a way where we can say COPPA is being followed well for kids.
By the way, as we're recording this episode, news broke today that Disney is going to pay, you mentioned Disney, $10 million to settle allegations by the FTC that it facilitated the, quote, unlawful collection of children's personal data. The FTC takes this data collection pretty seriously. Donna, could you give us the nuts and bolts of the primary stuff that's in place with COPPA? Basically, what are the rules that COPPA sets up?
So COPPA applies to websites, mobile apps, online services that are directed to children under 13, requires parental consent before you can collect the data of a child and personal data of a child, which includes name, email, location. Location alone is considered personally identifiable information. Device ID is considered personally identifiable information alone. So I think one of the changes that the COPPA rule made in 2013 really clarified actually what personal data is, because for years everyone was operating under the premise that first name, last name, date of birth was all that personally identifiable information covered. No, it covers all these other things standalone. COPPA also requires that there's a clear disclosure about what data is collected, how it's used, and who it's shared with. And I would argue those are the three things that people really want to understand, right? What information are you collecting about my kid? Who's using it? How are you using it? And who are you sharing it with? And I think it's that sharing piece that actually connects the dots. And it also prohibits conditioning participation in games or contests or activities without giving more information, right? So if all you need from me is my first name and for me to create a password to enjoy a game or log in, you should not need more personal data from me in order for me to engage in that actual game or activity. And then there's also heightened security practices. In the rule that was just amended last year, there's additional security practices put in place because obviously we know that there are bad actors out there who are trying every which way to hack into companies like a Disney, like some of these other folks who they believe have a lot of personally identifiable information, which they do. There have to be increased security around the data of children. So that's kind of the big picture of COPPA.
Thank you. Well, rules and guidelines are a start, but parents need to take steps to protect their kids from intrusive advertising and improper data collection, and we're going to have some tips for you straight ahead. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. According to a recent report by DKC, a New York public relations firm, 42% of all household spending in this country is influenced by 8 to 14-year-olds. These so-called Gen Alpha children directly spend $101 billion per year. In addition to the influence they have over their parents' wallets, the report found 95% of all apps designed for preschoolers contain at least one kind of advertising, according to a report from the Institute of Digital Media and Child Development. The average teenager sees one ad every 10 seconds while scrolling through their feeds, the report noted. That's equivalent to 420 advertisements per hour.
You know, it's clear that parents play a significant role in protecting their children from deceptive advertising and intrusive data collection. Bonnie, your group, truthandadvertising.org, recommends discussing ads with your kids. What do you tell them? What's the conversation going to be about?
That's right. I think, media literacy is just as important as, these days learning to read and doing arithmetic. Children need to understand about marketing. And obviously it depends on the age of the child. And, as kids cognitively develop, they can learn more and more about this, but they need to know that when they hear marketing messages, when they can even understand that an ad is an ad, that they need to be skeptical. They need to not just take it that everything that's being saying is absolutely true, that they have to use some critical skills to evaluate what they're hearing and seeing.
I assume that for the appropriate age group, you go into some specifics, such as tricks that advertisers use or explain these endorsements and testimonials they're going to see?
Absolutely. I mean, the goal is for kids, once they're old enough, to understand that the motive, bias, and interest of marketers is to get them to part with their hard-earned cash or to behave in some way that they might not otherwise behave, that it's to motivate them, or in the case of bad ads, to manipulate them. And so it's important conversations to have. That said, yes, parents and guardians are primarily responsible, for the upbringing and development of their kids. But in this area, with regard to advertising and deceptive advertising, I don't think that parents should be expected to go it alone. It's very complicated. The internet's a big place. There's no way parents can understand everything. And that's why I think that there is a responsibility for brands and companies and marketers to be very cautious when they're dealing with children. And we're just not seeing enough of that.
I would assume, Bonnie, for teens, you should tell them why they never fill out online forms based on an advertisement they see?
Among other things. Unfortunately, I think anytime anyone is on the internet, and this especially includes minors, they should not be sharing any personal data. They should not be going off of games they're playing to engage with others on other more risky platforms. Unfortunately, when you get old enough, you've got to read the terms and conditions and privacy policies. That's either a parent or, maybe a teen. But it can be a dangerous place. And I think caution is recommended at all turns.
Agree with you 100%. Donna, do you think parents should be watching what their kids are watching to know what marketing messages they're seeing?
Absolutely. I think parental participation is key, depending, of course, on the age of the child, right? If you're dealing with young children, right? Explaining, as Bonnie said, very simply that an ad is a message that's trying to get you to want something or do something. And I don't think it's too early to start teaching critical thinking by talking to your kids about what this ad is trying to get you to do, talking about exaggeration, comparing claims with reality, all those sorts of things. I think that there's a responsibility of the entire ecosystem here with regards to how ads are being directed to kids. And I think, look, we have to also, let's be real about this. This is a business, and brand loyalty is starting at a younger and younger age. And advertisers know that. And parents need to understand that as well. So watching what their kids are watching, being familiar with the content that their kids are watching, the platforms that they're on, but also understanding that they actually have the ability to have some control, setting rules regarding in-app purchases, using parental controls on the platforms. The more that they can make themselves aware and avail themselves of the tools that are out there specifically for parents, I think can help. I agree with Bonnie. There's no silver bullet. There's no panacea here. The entire ecosystem needs to do better here. And brands actually will do better. Their bottom line will actually, I think, my opinion only, that their bottom line will likely increase when they show parents who may also be purchasing their brands that they actually want to do the right thing by their kids. Brand loyalty is a real thing. And when you have so much competition in the marketplace, I think it only behooves brands to really pay attention to how they're evolving that brand loyalty with young kids and being responsible to them.
My take is so many companies today actually cross the line to do whatever they want to do, say they're sorry or they didn't realize it, which is one thing if you maybe have a little deceptive advertising. It's quite another if you're collecting sensitive data from a child, then it gets breached and it's out there and does some real harm. So I think you're right that the industry really does need to clean up its act in this country today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Final question. What does a parent do if they see an ad they believe is deceptive or harmful? Can they complain personally to KRU? Do they file a complaint with tina.org? Go to the FTC? What do you folks recommend?
All of the above.
Right, exactly. They go to TINA, they go to KRU, they go to the FTC, they go to the company.
Good point.
They actually complain to the company as well. They have to make their voice known. And sometimes, also parents talking with other parents saying, hey, did you see this? When they receive multiple complaints about the same ad, about the same practice, that may move a company and actually do something.
Yeah, I think we should also add that parents can go to their state attorney general or consumer protection bureaus in the state, and that's also a very good avenue for them.
Well, it truly is a minefield out there, and we just scratched the surface. I put more links to information in the show notes, and I want to thank our great guests for making us so much smarter. Bonnie Patton, Executive Director of Truth in Advertising. You can find them online at tina.org. Thank you, Bonnie.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
And Donna Frazier, Senior Vice President at BBB National Programs. You can find the Children Advertising Review Unit at bbbprograms.org/program/children/KRU. Don't worry, I put the link in the show notes. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Before we go, a few other Consumerpedia episodes you might want to check out. Number 53, Smart Toys, the Privacy and Security Risks. 85, Too Much, How We're Encouraged to Buy. And number 26, Sale Prices Are Rarely Deals. And with that, we're out of time. I hope you'll rate this episode. It's really helpful. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Another way you can support this show is to follow us at Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, at consumerpedia.org on Blue Sky, and at MyConsumerpedia on X. You can find me at consumerman.com. I'm Herb Weisbaum, always looking out for you. Until next time, be smart and shop wisely.
Consumerpedia is a public service of checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.